Hello, everyone. Welcome to what's going to be a really interesting session. I'm extremely excited about this. My name is Alexa Volland. I'm NLP Senior Manager of Educator Professional Learning. As I let folks kind of trickle into the room, I just want to say, again, a quick thank you for attending today's NewsLitCamp. Also wish everyone a happy National News Literacy Week. We really love being able to connect educators with working journalists, and I know this session is going to be extremely insightful. And of course, I want to say a thank you to our partner Scripps for connecting us with all of these incredible journalists. Again, I've been especially looking forward to today's session, News and the Social Media Ecosystem, which will tackle what credibility looks like on social media platforms, how journalists engage with audiences, and of course, what journalists want teachers to know when it comes to information students see on social media. Before I turn things over to your actual moderator, just a few quick logistical things to go over. If you've been with us all day, please feel free to tune me out for the next 30 seconds. But yes, this webinar is going to be recorded. You will have access to all of the recordings, and we're going to package up any material that's been shared today that you will receive via email next week. All of the links that are being shared that connect to NLP resources are, of course, all free. Because this is the webinar format, you won't be able to unmute yourself, but please use the chat for any kind of general comments. If you have a specific question, let's keep those in the Q&A just so that none of them get lost to the chat. And with that, now I'm excited to hand things over to your actual moderator for this session, my friend and also my colleague, Jake Lloyd. Jake is NLP's Director of Social Media. So Jake, thank you so much for leading what will be a really fun conversation. So I'd say take it away.
Well, thanks so much, Alexa. I really appreciate the chance to lead this session. I kind of think it should be you since you are such a TikTok aficionado, but I am honored for the opportunity. And as you said, it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, a little bit about me. I am NLP's Director of Social Media. I've been with the organization for about 5.5 years. So on a daily basis, I am posting across all of our social platforms. I think we got about 7 of them and monitoring them and engaging in different conversations around news and media literacy. One of those platforms is TikTok, which we've been on for about a year and a half and are slowly growing our presence thanks to creators like Alexa. But I am here today to talk to and gain a lot of just insights from Levi Ismail, who is a investigative journalist, an Emmy Award-winning investigative journalist with News Channel 5 in Nashville, Tennessee. And the main reason I think that we're having Levi on for this conversation is the incredibly successful TikTok channel that he runs for the news channel there in Nashville, which now has close to 85,000 followers, and which he uses to produce a variety of reports on everything from the weather, as you will see in a minute, to really serious investigations involving public officials. So with that, Levi, I know you are going to kind of introduce yourself, but also do it with a few different videos. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jake. I'm thrilled to be here because any chance that I get to talk about this kind of stuff, the things that I've learned over the past 3 years, I'll take it. What you're going to see from me and from the examples here is that really I am experiencing Nashville just like anyone else is experiencing the city. I just have the experience of also being a journalist. And I can ask questions of the people who are putting together stories, whether it's myself or my colleagues in the same building, and I can go out and find answers for people. But ultimately, what I want people to know is that they can reach out to us, and we're human beings. We're going to listen to you. We're going to, share a lot of the same experiences throughout the city with you. And we're going to take your concerns to the people who can get you answers. And so that's what, we've been able to do with this TikTok channel that's evolved into its own animal, if you will. But, I'm excited because I see where this can go. I see where people are now taking different examples of this and turning into their own thing, and that's pretty cool. So you're going to see some examples here, and this is a variety of different things that I typically show on this channel, whether it's weather, whether it's breaking news, whether it's just going through the city and experiencing things there. We do a little bit of everything.
Snow in Nashville, and I'm already over it. Just mind you, this is all in the span of less than 24 hours. Roads are covered, cars are covered, and I don't really know if there's much of a plan, because I know, in cities where they expect to get snow, they got street plows, they have schedules for where your car needs to be so they can get to all the streets. Meanwhile, my man is using a leaf blower to move snow from his property. A leaf blower. That's the kind of snow we're talking about here. It's not that let's, stick around kind of snow and you can make snowmen and all that kind of stuff. No. This is that annoying, fluffy stuff. Great for snowboarding, terrible for practically everything else. Some of y'all ask for snow. I know who you are. This is the amount of snow we're talking about. That all happened overnight. This is my hand. At least for the people clearing their cars off, it's a breeze. You brush the snow off and it's gone. Now the problem becomes if you leave that snow on your car until, say, Tuesday or Wednesday, next couple days here, where it's supposed to get really, really cold, that's where you're gonna have some issues.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, open the floor up for any questions. If anyone has any questions on either one of these videos that they see, I'm happy to take any questions, or we can just go right into the next video and then go from there. And so I'll defer to you, Jake.
We had people walking to the terminals. They walked down the interstate, right? That's the interstate. So I guess maybe they were dropped off by their Uber or, their ride or whatever, and thought to themselves, I could probably walk the rest of the way and have a better chance of making it to my flight, which is just, I'm just saying, let's be honest. We've all been in that position where we thought, what if we just started walking?
Other day, my partner and his family flew out for Thanksgiving, and it took them nearly 45 minutes just to go across the bridge there at the interstate because of the traffic. It's really not safe to have people walking down the side of the road to get to the airport.
So we reached out to the airport officials for a statement.
Stacey Nickens with BNA says there are plans to expand the airport loop from 3 lanes to 6.
I just can't imagine. And part of me is thinking, I don't want the anxiety of walking down the interstate and watching my ride drive right past me. That alone would just, whoo, that would hurt. I'm curious, if you're out there, if you're one of those folks who actually walked to your flight, let me know, okay? Just respond to here. We're dying to know, did you make your flight? The now former police chief you're about to hear from was accused of helping someone buy their way into becoming a cop.
Is it worth me giving a reserve commission to somebody who is going to say, we'll put his hours in and get essentially $200,000 worth of cameras?
The man who was on the other end of that line sent us this recorded phone call of former Millersville Police Chief Dustin Carr. What we hear is Carr considering an offer that was made by Nashville entrepreneur Jack Bird III for license plate readers. These are the things that cops use to tell if there's a stolen vehicle in some other jurisdiction.
So Jack has offered to donate LPR cameras to our city.
In exchange, Bird, who is not a certified officer in the state of Tennessee, would get a commission card, essentially making him a reserve officer for Millersville. He can arrest you, he can pull you over under the umbrella of Millersville Police, all of these things.
I don't hand out commission cards. I don't. And I told him that. I'm adamant against it. He said, they're some things you got to really consider.
Carr's attorney said that they're not commenting. As for Byrd, he turned down our interview request this time around, but listen to what he said the first time I asked him about buying commission cards.
Absolutely not. That is not something that we would ever support.
We reached out to a police consultant who said that either way, this raises a lot of questions.
That's where the ethical issue comes up. Is it a quid pro quo or someone in the community that wants to help out local police departments?
So here's what we know. Millersville never got these LPR cameras, but Byrd did get the reserve position. Carr stepped down as Millersville police chief not long after that and ended up working for Byrd's security company, Solaire and Risk Management. Earlier this year, we sent our findings to the Post Commission here in Tennessee. Those are the ones who regulate police. Turns out the day before they sent their investigator over to Millersville, Byrd resigned from his position. Now, we don't know if there was ever anything exchanged between Byrd and the city of Millersville for him to actually get this reserve position. What we do know is that during this time, Millersville's police chief, their assistant police chief, their city manager, all worked for Byrd's Solaire and Risk Management Company. I think some of them still work for Solaire. Now, keep in mind, these are the same people in charge of making sure that Byrd does the required training to keep the job. No charges have been filed against anyone in this case, but we do know that the state agency in charge of security guards across the state does have an open investigation on Byrd. As always, we want to know, what do you think?
So those are 3 examples of, the type of reporting that I've done on this Nashville News platform through TikTok, but it extends beyond TikTok because, I've used a lot of the same stuff in repurposed ways for Instagram or Twitter or, what have you, just because I know that there is an appetite for news without people actually having to say, I want to see news. Like, people still want to be informed, and that's some of the feedback that I've been getting.
Yeah. First off, Levi, how many people responded to the airport TikTok saying that they had that similar experience walking to the airport?
So many people. I was expecting maybe a handful here or there. I had people saying, wait a minute, was that me in the video? When did you take this, Levi? And they were trying to, circle back and think, was that during Thanksgiving break? I think that was me. But no, we had a ton of people and a ton of feedback, and that's part of why I asked the question, because I want the engagement. I want people to feel like they are part of a community when they tune into these things, even if they're in Bangladesh or they're in Brazil or whatever. Like, people will tune in and say, wow, that looks pretty bad. I was at LAX the other day and I saw someone doing the same thing. I didn't know it happened in Nashville too.
Yeah, and we'll get into this, but all of your videos get so much feedback and so many people just kind of chiming in with their own personal experiences. We're getting some really good comments in the chat around credibility, and I do want to get to that. But before we get there, I kind of want to start with the beginning. What ultimately, were you a part of the creation of this TikTok account, or what are the origins of Nashville 5 deciding, okay, we're gonna go this route to take our news coverage in a different direction?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. News Channel 5 had nothing to do with it. News Channel 5 facilitated, obviously, me being a journalist in the building. But this Nashville News account is separate from News Channel 5. But because of my affiliation with News Channel 5, obviously, I can, use the same stories. And I've been able to, have a good relationship with our digital team to, incorporate a lot of the same stuff and get some, great support that way. But this all started because my roommate, I would go home and I would tell him, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what just happened. And I would explain what took place that day in a very conversational tone. And one day he's like, have you heard of TikTok? And this was about 3 years ago. And I thought, no, I don't know what that is, man. The thing for all these people that are dancing or whatever, I can't do all that. And he said, yeah, but what you're doing right now is news, but you're doing it in a way that I would watch it. And that stuck with me because he finds news in so many different ways, but he'll never sit in front of a TV and watch the news. He'll never, like go searching for the News Channel 5 app or whatever it might be, or go on Twitter to keep up with up-to-date information. Like, he's not doing that. But some way, shape, or form, the news is finding him in different ways. And so I thought, well, wouldn't that be interesting to see a page that talked to you about current events and the news that was happening in and around Nashville, just in a conversational way, as if we were in the same room. And that's how it started. I mean, the first videos we did, it was literally me sitting on a chair and James, my roommate, on the opposite end, and he would ask me questions about the story and I would just talk to him. And then it evolved into, well, we can take this outside of the room and I can go and, shoot it wherever. And that evolved into, well, what else could we do? We could probably incorporate the videos from your stories. And from there, it just snowballed into this, this TikTok channel that's now an Instagram channel and all that. But people are like seeing me in the street and saying, thank you so much for what you're doing. And they're calling me by my first name as if we've known each other for years. Hey, Levi, thanks so much, man. And I thought, I don't know who you are, but I have a feeling I know why you're saying that. And that's, been the response so far. It's been amazing.
That's really cool. That was I'm not a big TV news watcher myself, but that was one of the things that kind of stood out to me just in watching your three examples. Was a lot of the elements here seem like aspects that would just be included in a TV report about the weather or in the report you did, the investigation. How much of those aspects that you use for kind of a standard TV report are you including in some of these TikToks?
Oh, my process, I've always said, shouldn't be any different, right? Sometimes, for some people that might sound confusing because obviously we're talking about two completely different types of medium, but ultimately when you see a video that I put together, I am giving you the anchor intro, I'm giving you the reporter intro, I'm giving you the package, I'm giving you the anchor tag, like I'm giving you the full setup. It's just in a different way. I'm telling you why I think this is important. I'm showing you this is something that you can't take your eyes off of. You may not have heard about this, but you need to know. Okay. And I'm giving it to you immediately. That's the same type of thing that we would do on air. But for some reason, I think we got away from the idea of like explaining to people why they should pay attention. And we're focusing more on like building the story. Like at some point we'll tell you why, but for now, let's just get to that point. Here with these platforms, you've got about 3 seconds before someone's moving on to something else, maybe even 2. And so I've got 2 seconds to tell you, stop, this is important, and tell you what it is right off the jump. And a lot of those same skills have helped me with what I do on air, because I know that I can't just, kind of slow walk you into a story. I can't just, build the suspense until you get to what I really want you to see. No, there's a sense of urgency. There might be a little more commitment when you're watching something on TV because you're tuning into it, and it might take you a little bit more to find something else to watch. Sometimes it's just in the background. Well, this stuff, it's not in the background. So you really have to get someone's attention. And that's a skill that I've developed just from, it sounds weird, but from TikTok, like that urgency, that quickness, that approach of, why are we here? Why do I need you to, you can go to the next cat video or someone dancing or whatever. There's plenty of that stuff on there, and be entertained. But if you want to be informed and entertained, this is one way of doing that.
Well, it sounds to me like from what you were saying about people's responses to you and recognizing you, that this is not a case of just people being on TikTok and the algorithm feeding them your latest report. And I'm sure there are people who are discovering you in that way, but this sounds like this is a case where people are intentionally seeking out, okay, what's the latest Levi TikTok. Is that kind of the sense that you've gotten as you've built this thing up?
Yeah, we've had I will read the comments and respond to as many of them as possible, which is another thing that I don't think we really do on a lot of the other social media platforms. We just kind of put it out there and let people have the discourse amongst themselves, and we step aside. And if we need to, show up to delete something or another, we might do that, or at least, keep an eye on things. Well, for me, I think people really appreciate that we're having a conversation. They can send me a question and I might respond within the next 5 minutes or so because it's a notification that shows up on my phone. And some people are like taken aback by that, but then they start showing up again. They start commenting on other videos. There are some people who are consistently commenting on these videos and they feel like they're a part of this community, whatever it is. Like they feel like they're a part of this thing that is Nashville news. They might, I have people who will tag me in videos that have nothing to do with any stuff that I've worked on, that have nothing to do with Nashville whatsoever. They may be on the opposite side of Tennessee and they'll tag me on videos and they'll say, you need to pay attention to this. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I will absolutely see if this is impacting Nashville. But that right there is something that I've never experienced before. I've been doing this job for about 12 years now. I've never experienced it on any other platform, or even just through on-air work. People will find you and say thank you for finding me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like your news reports, if they're posted on a website, you're not getting a notification on your phone every time someone comments on those. That's harder to respond to. I suppose, as of a couple of years ago, Twitter in a lot of ways was that medium, was a healthy medium for that discourse, but that doesn't really seem to be the case anymore. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that if you're just getting these notifications and you're out and about, you can have this conversation kind of in real time. And it feels like, I do want to ask, you mentioned to me before the session that you've met people who just do not watch the news in its traditional manner at all, but they religiously watch all of your TikToks. Like, how how big of a deal has that been to you, just from the standpoint of, okay, overall trust in so-called mainstream news is down, but I am reaching people, at least they're seeing these news reports through this medium on a pretty consistent basis.
You know, it was it was a very big deal for me, not only to get that kind of feedback, but to know that it's reaching a broad audience. Like, just a quick story. I was walking home one day from work because I lived so close at the time, and I was passing the baseball game, and there were some cops who were, helping with traffic control. And the one guy saw me as I was walking by, and he's like, "Hey, I like your TikTok." This was the cop saying this while he's, kind of waving people along. And I was like, oh man, thank you so much. Couldn't have been, older than 35 or so. And then I literally walk one block away and there is an older woman, had to have been in her, 70s, 80s or something like that. And she's like, Ismail, Ismail. And I thought, oh, okay. So I'm going to get, she's probably seeing me from TV because, this is the type of audience that would catch me on TV. And she said, Levi, Ismail, I love your TikTok. And I was floored. I wish someone was capturing like my face at that moment, because what I just saw right there was a 50 age year gap between two people who watched this. So that at that point I knew, okay, we're reaching people here. They may or may not be consistent TV watchers. They may or may not be even news consumers, but they found something there that they like. And if I can incorporate a lot of the news with, some of the lifestyle, things that I've been posting about just experiencing the city, if I can combine all of that, people will tune in. And frankly, that's no different than what we would do on TV. We have a lot of variety in so many ways. So why can't it be there on this platform where people are begging us to reach them?
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest, I'm not a big TikTok guy. I'm an old millennial who probably is more likely to scroll Instagram or even Facebook than TikTok. But when I was introduced to your account, I was like, this is actually something that I would watch on a daily basis because these are, really informative videos and entertaining as well. I want to get to kind of summing up some of the stuff in the chat, which
Yep.
kind of relates to a question I was going to ask, which is how do you show the credibility that would be shown in, let's say, a 750 word news article? How do you show that in a 60-second to 2-minute TikTok, especially with some of these heavier topics that you're covering and like the investigation that you showed? How do you fit all of that in to a TikTok?
Sometimes it's more challenging than others. It's um, my stuff says, like on my page, it says bite-sized stories, from around Nashville. What I realize is that a lot of the stories that get the most views now aren't really that bite-sized. Like I'm posting something that might be a minute 20, a minute 30, but it feels like it could be 30 seconds because it's not the big production of here's an anchor tossing to you and here's this and there's that and here's some graphics and everything flying by. We're just having a conversation and I'm telling you what I found interesting in this. You might not find it interesting, but I'm explaining to you what I found. And so some of the tools that I use for credibility, frankly, I have a link tree in the bio, and I will tell people if you want more information, if you want to seek out any more information about this, or you want the full story, the full 7-minute story that somebody had posted about this, you go to the website. It's right there. You can click on it, give me your feedback, let me know what you think. And if there's something that I don't know, I'm not afraid to go find the answer. Like the analogy that I heard the other day was like, we don't always have to hit home runs. That's the beauty of this platform, is that when you think about a home run, sure, you can get a lot of runs or whatever, but it's still one hit, right? Whereas you can get a couple base hits here or there. You can answer a question here and a question there. And if you don't know the answer, you could say, I don't know. And frankly, people appreciate when you say, I don't know, because it means that you're being transparent. You're letting them know that this is information that I'm going to find out. I'm going to do my best to find that out. Where we run into a lot of issues is when you see these creators who will post a video and they will get all this information, not cite a single source, and not offer you any place where you can find this information yourself. That should be a red flag. If you can't find this information on your own, if you can't follow the breadcrumbs for how this person got there, then it's a good chance this person didn't do the work to do it themselves. So I try to show the process as much as possible. There's one video that I did where in the middle of me recording the video, my roommate on the opposite end with the camera was like, so how many hours was this person logging on his time card? And I was like, that's a great question. We're still rolling at that point. I pulled out my phone and I sent a text to Phil Williams, our investigator, who did the story. And within a minute or two, he sent me the answer. And we were still rolling. And I said it. And so you'll see on the screen, it says, text Phil to verify, and Phil gave me the answer. And I said, oh, okay. So yeah, he was working this many hours. And that's okay. I think this is people want to see the process. And often when we're doing these kind of videos, I will show the process. And I will even bring in the reporters who did the story originally, because they know more about it than I do. So that's part of how I get the credibility, back to this platform where, there's been a lot of talk about people just spreading misinformation. And I totally understand that. But I also understand that there are people who are just like myself or other journalists who want to show that this could be a credible resource for people.
One thing you just mentioned brought up a follow-up question. For most of the stories that you're doing, are they based off, larger, longer TV stories of like colleagues of yours, or are some of them stories that you're also doing for different mediums? Like, what's kind of the balance there?
Oh, so some of the stories will be things that I have covered or my colleagues have covered. But we do have a pretty good balance where these might just be ideas that people have put in the comments. Sometimes I'll post a story and someone will put a question in the comments that I thought, okay, well, wait a minute, I didn't even think about that. So maybe I could follow up and shoot something and just, link back to that question. That way, not only do people realize that we're listening, we're paying attention to what you have to say, but we can actually get you answers at the same time. So I have a healthy balance, I think, of both, where it's whether stuff on air or stuff that I'm just kind of thinking about or stuff that people brought to our attention.
Yeah, I noticed there were a couple of pieces, and this is so neat that you can do this on TikTok, where the TikTok is you replying to someone. So
Yeah.
someone just asked you a question and you made a full TikTok news report out of that. And I just feel like that's got to be so satisfying to that person. They asked a legitimate question about an issue, and here they're getting a news report from that. That's got to be a great trust builder too, for them.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask a question from Cheryl. She asks, her college students report that they get their news from TikTok. Not surprising. What critical media tools do they need to know to be able to distinguish entertainment from propaganda on the platform?
Well, one thing I try to do when I see some of these videos that are kind of, on the fence, right? Where I think maybe they're trying to inform me, but they're, going about it in a different way where you could see it's entertainment. Like they're trying to get as many views, as many likes and all that kind of stuff. Look at the comments. Read the comments. Like people when they're done with their videos, they don't want to go back and have to re-edit something that they're going to have to post again or whatever, just because they may have, said something they weren't exactly sure about. Go through the comments and you can see how they respond to criticism. And their responses are usually a pretty telltale sign of whether or not they are being, unbiased, or whether or not they are, just trying to inform you. The comments section it can get a lot of people in a lot of trouble. People will say all sorts of things in those comments thinking that people aren't going to go through this, right? Like they're going to focus their attention on the video. So that's just one thing that I thought could help people, because sometimes it is tough to differentiate if there's something that you see on these platforms and you're like, I'm not quite sure if this is misinformation or whatever, and I can't go back and look through all of these sources for how you got this information. Look through the comments and read how they're reacting to when someone, tries to challenge them on this.
Yeah, I mean that's a news literacy tip that we share all the time is, if you're not sure about something, first off, don't share right away, but then take a look at the comments, because oftentimes there will be somebody in there debunking the claim if it's a falsehood, or to your point, if it's kind of propaganda and sensationalized, they might not be commenting in the most fact-based manner. But yeah, one thing I noticed was, we talked earlier a little bit about you getting notifications in real time of people responding to these. And I saw in going through a lot of your videos that you do comment and respond to a lot of people on these videos, oftentimes saying, I agree, or that's funny that you experienced this, or in other situations basically pushing back or saying we just don't know this fact, or even asking questions of people, how do you know this is true?
Mhm.
This is a question from Christine. Does it ever get tiring, the immediacy of responding to all these comments, and also how do you choose which ones to respond to?
All both good questions. Uh, yes, it does sometimes get exhausting when you realize that people, for every video that you put up there, people are probably going to put up a ton of comments. And now if you've got 60, 70 videos up on your page at that time, well, those are 70, like you think of all the comments that could possibly happen from all those stories. And yeah, sometimes you miss something, but for me, I try to set time aside, even like on the weekends. I'll say, okay, well, for this hour, all right, I'm hammering away comments. Or I try to knock it out in the very early stages of posting a video. Where some people will put out all these different comments. I try to knock out as many as I can because I know, and I hate using the word unless I need to, but the algorithm will pay attention to this stuff and it will say, okay, it looks like people are talking, there's conversation happening. This might be an interesting video. Let's push it out to more people. So in a way, I'm creating more work for myself, but I do like having the conversations. It's part of building this trust between people because now I know I'm seeing the same face. I'm saying, hey, Crystal, like, hey, thank you so much for the feedback. I've had people say, things like, this is the news I've been looking for. Like, it took this long for you to, to come to that conclusion. Like, wow, or, I posted a video about making an idea jar, which is just so, out of left
I
field
love that
for
one.
what I
That
do.
was great.
But for a year, we were talking about why don't we have something that we can just pull ideas from, and that's the restaurant we're going to go to. That's the place where, wherever it might be. And so I made it. But I also knew that people were probably going to like chime in and say, hey, did you put that idea in there? Did you put that idea in there? And I was responding to all these. Yep, I got it. Oh, missed that one or whatever. And now people are like, oh, I'm excited to see what they pull out of this thing. Like, what's the restaurant? What's the place? There is anticipation being built off of something that we created out of a Target run, you know? And so I love that, people are responding in this way, that we can give them quick, immediate feedback, and they're doing the same for us. This is just, it feels like we've been doing this for a lot longer than we've been doing it.
Yeah, I love the idea jar one. So you're gonna do everything, is that right? Not to put you on the spot.
Well, whatever I pull out of this jar, okay, we have to do. And so there are restaurants, there are like different events throughout Nashville that are, going on year long or whatever, but different different things, that we can do from this thing. And so I've invited people. I said, listen, I'm just going to pull something out and I might invite you and we'll go grab lunch and I'll shoot it and I'll put it on the page and, show people a different side of Nashville. Maybe they haven't experienced yet. And we've had a lot of great feedback. People are like, I'm free Wednesday, at such and such time. Like, okay, cool, let's do it.
That's very cool. I might have to take that idea. I'm in Seattle to do
Okay,
some exploring here.
by all means.
We just got about 5 more minutes, but a couple questions I wanted to get to. And this one, I'm just kind of thinking through, all that we're learning about consumption habits and who's on what platforms now, and also, honestly, some kind of personal bias about these platforms. Do you think it's feasible for someone to be reliably informed just by watching TikTok videos or just by watching YouTube videos? Or do you think there still needs to be some sort of balance between those platforms and other platforms?
um, I do think that there still needs to be a balance of where you get your information from, but I also think that TikTok has become television in so many ways. Late at night, you're sitting on your phone and you're flipping through channels. That's what they call them, right? And so you're doing it on something that's in your hand, and the response might be, I got to flip through quick or whatever. But you're getting a lot of the things that you want. Like, you've curated an algorithm to show you the things that you want to see. And that's what I try to remind people is, like, you can train your algorithm to get you credible information. If you find that you're seeing a lot of misinformation, well, you've been paying attention probably to a lot of misinformation. And this is something that can be changed. I do think that there is a way for these two worlds to coexist, right? Where you can have the citizen journalist who is on these TikTok platform, TikTok or whatever, to offer you information that you can go ahead and find even more information about, because they're giving you the sources, they're giving you the citations, they're showing you the work and the process. I think that goes a long way for people. And so while I do think that there needs to be a balance, I think this is the balance. You can find information elsewhere. You can find the sources elsewhere. For these videos that I do, if there is an investigative story, I will show you where you can get more information. And I will even link to the long form stories so you know how you can do this yourself. The last story that you just saw there, earlier, that was an investigative story that only aired on TikTok. And that was an idea that I told these folks about, and I said, listen, wouldn't it be cool if we did something that people could only find here? And we posted on Twitter as well, but what if we did something that was reserved for people who were trying to find this information on this platform? And the response was incredible. Like, people were like, oh my God, I didn't know that we had investigative stories, on TikTok or whatever. But we created something that got a ton of feedback across Nashville, really. And I had been doing stories on this particular subject for 2 years, but it got so much feedback from this one thing that it was very telling in the moment.
That's really cool. And I think one thing you spoke to too is the importance of people being intentional. Training the algorithm is one thing, but also just being really intentional about what they're consuming and recognizing if they seem to be going down a rabbit hole, maybe that isn't feeding them the kind of credible information that you're providing. Okay, we got like 1 minute left. I wanted to ask, do you use TikTok for like getting story ideas outside of like the comments that we talked about? Like, do you actually watch TikTok yourself to see things that might be happening around Nashville? Is that a thing at all, or not really?
Yes, I get sent these videos. So it's not like I'm flipping through Nashville Insta or TikTok accounts or whatever. I have people at this point who will send me videos, or who will comment and say, hey, did you think about this? And I'll get story ideas from that. From, what was it, the Covenant School shooting that happened here in Nashville. I was really busy working on the breaking news of what happened, and I think it was the next day I went through my DMs on TikTok, because we had just had a chance to just decompress, and I saw that I got a message from a dispatcher. Now, the dispatcher in the message said, something is happening at Covenant School. We think it might be a shooting. You should check it out. And I was just blown away from that, because they had no obligation to send that to me. But it was someone who had seen the work that we had done, understood what we were doing, and said he might need to know about this. Now, it was, obviously a day late for us, and we were already on top of everything. But, I've had people send me story ideas and comments and that kind of thing to bring my attention to it. And it's a testament to, what we've accomplished, really.
Yeah, no, I mean that absolutely speaks to the credibility that you've built up on the platform and how big it's gotten and well known and trusted. So kudos to you on that. Thanks so much, Levi, for talking through this. I know this is really insightful to me and hopefully to everyone who's tuned in. Even if you are across the country like myself, I highly recommend following Nashville News on TikTok. Levi is highly entertaining. I don't know if there's any snow there still, but I really enjoyed those weather ones recently.
Well, man, no snow anymore. So fingers crossed we don't get anything else. But I appreciate you, Jake. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm happy to answer any questions if you follow on Nashville News, or even just send me a comment here or there. I'm happy to talk more about this.
Awesome. Alexa, we're gonna throw it back to you.
Awesome. That was an incredible session. So many kudos in the chat. We've also dropped a link to the SurveyMonkey for all of the sessions. But Levi, Jake, thank you so much for this really incredible conversation. I think our educators in the audience certainly gained a lot of information about TikTok. And really, Levi, keep up the amazing work there. It's very cool.
Thank you, Alexa.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you at the next session.